This generation's gearing up to return to work facing many of the same problems it also faced before lockdown, when they were one of the first generations in the modern era to face an economy that was measurably tougher on them in key respects than their parents' generation, the one that came before.
95% of baby boomers did better than their parents. It's now just a coin toss for millennials. We have a real crises in our country.
A ticking time bomb for our economy.
At a time when the middle class is disappearing.
33%, 1 in 3, 25 to 29-year-olds live with their parents or grandparents.
Fewer millennials are entering the middle class than previous generations.
Things are actually getting worse, and it may not sound obviously true to everyone, partly because some of these youth challenges get less attention, because young people have fewer voices and advocates in national politics or media, and for another reason, and here it is. Math is hard, and multi-decade inflation math is really hard. Look, I went into law and journalism for a reason, but even before we get to the politics or some bad faith arguments, some people in older generations might casually think, well, we faced a tough job market, and I remember low wages and student debt as well. And we did at whatever generation, 40s, 50s, 60s. But some of those were not as bad as they are for young people today, right now, as a mathematical fact. Consider the same math mistake that Republican Senator John Thune recently made. He, as a young person, earned today's equivalent of a $20 minimum wage back when he was younger. But he remembers it for an arbitrary number then, $6, which had literally $20 worth of today's buying power, which led him to this misleading claim based on innumeracy.
I worked for less than the minimum wage. I worked for the minimum wage. I started bussing tables at $1 an hour, and then I finally made it to cook, which was big time. That was $6 an hour.
Senator John Thune said he opposed the $15 minimum wage because he used to get by on $6 an hour as a young man. But that was like 40 years ago when rent was like $1.
Basically true. And you don't have to be a Republican opposing that wage to slip into this kind of thinking. There's a fair amount of lecturing of young people these days by often older people, telling them to work hard and pay off your debts like we did. But some of that ignores that today's students, if they want to do what past generations did, like pay for their college, facts, they actually have to work twice as hard because college costs over double what it used to. It has doubled its price from about 30 years ago. And this was a spike before the pandemic. Or in just the last 10 years, America's debt has gone up by $3 trillion, largely carried by graduating students. Student debt's the second biggest driver. It actually eclipses credit card debt or car loans. And the job market has also shifted long-term from more reliably stable careers where even blue-collar workers could be with an employer reasonably for 8 or 10 or 12 years or more to higher job mobility and a gig economy that really makes it hard to achieve a stable income, let alone plan for 10 and 20-year financial goals. This is not about whether these younger people work hard. This is about what work is available. So Generation Pandemic already had this uphill battle before the pandemic, which also hit these young people harder. Younger people are more likely to work at in-person jobs, which of course have been hit. At one point, up to a quarter of them were unemployed. That is a rate of job loss that, at its peak, was worse than older workers. People under 25, twice as likely to be without work because of COVID than every other adult group. And it's not like the first weeks of reopening the economy will immediately wipe out challenges like this.
Young people 18 to 34 years old are disproportionately losing their jobs. Gen Z and millennials may be the worst hit so far.
The businesses you've seen around you close down, restaurants, bars, hospitality, and a lot of those employ 18 to 35-year-old crowd.
Santiago was laid off from a movie theater. Mauricio furloughed from his job as a chef.
This is a huge problem. It's hard to even get our minds around about it. I mean, everyone remembers the 2008 financial crash, which felt huge. Then, about 15% of younger workers lost their jobs. But it's worse today. And for people in their 30s, that's a 1-2 punch. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.